Kadosh, good morning. I just wanted to share with you an idea that is based upon this parasha that I'm sure a lot of you have asked many times. Why do we have 10 plagues? We have the 10 makot. You understand? 10 bashings of Paro and his nation. And even in the Haggadah, we come and we say, Detzach adash be'achav. We come and we make it into, we break it up into, we're going to say multiples of whether it's going to be 3, right? And then the last one, obviously, is Makab Bechorot, is completely like a different, it's like a completely different entity in itself. But why exactly do we have, what exactly is it coming to teach us is 3? And it's actually split up the other way. Tetzach, right? Dam Tzefardei Akinim, Adash, Arov Dever Shechin, and then Achav, right? Where we have Arbe Choshech, right? We said Barad Arbe and Choshech, right? So why is it that we split it up in this fashion? So obviously, in order for us to understand, HaKadosh Baruch Hu could have taken us out of Mitzrayim with one makkah, with one of them, or even without any of them. He didn't even need it. He just takes us out, and that's it. That's if he really wanted to. However, though, obviously, he was coming to teach us a very important lesson, right? Rav Pinkus comes and he calls this, there were 3 lessons that were going to be taught when we came out of Mitzrayim. And the first lesson, and second lesson, and third lesson, he calls them the 3 different Gemarot. Baba Kama, Baba Metzia, and Baba Batra. The first gate, the second gate, and the third gate. And he says like this, every single gate was coming to, every single lesson, or every single group of the Makot was coming to teach us a different lesson. And it was so important to teach us these lessons, and he wanted to teach us in multiples of 3. Because when you do something 3 times, it becomes a chazakah. It becomes a stronghold. It becomes yours. When you do something for 3 times, right? For example, even a mitzvah, right? You do it for 3 times, or you do something, when you start getting into the hang of things, that's it. It starts becoming routine. And therefore, it was important to teach a lesson 3 times, not only just once, but once doesn't go into the heart. The 3rd time around, that's when it actually applies, right? And that's where the Chovot HaLevavot comes and he says, right, that this is actually coming to take out of all of these, we're going to say these mindsets of what they had. So he comes and he says as follows, right? Every single, right, before the Makot, every single Makkah was coming to try to teach us something new. Before the first Makkah, Hashem comes and he tells, right, and he says, Bezot Teda, with this you're going to know, Ki ani Hashem, that I am Hashem. This is brought down in chapter 7, Pasuk Yud Zayin, right? So it's in Perek Zayin, Pasuk Yud Zayin. There, what does that mean exactly? He's going against Paro. Paro says, Lo yadati et Hashem. I don't know who Hashem is. So comes Moshe, and he tells him the name of Hashem, Bezot Teda, now you will know, Ki ani Hashem, that I am Hashem. So what does he do? The Kli Yakar says, everyone thought, right, that the Yeor, that the river, right, this river, the Nile River was their God. And that he was the one that did everything. So what happened? HaKadosh Baruch Hu purposely does shifatim, he does judgment against their God. Because if I take their God and I show that there's nothing there, so what happens? All of a sudden, what I just showed was that there's somebody above the river. There's somebody above the Nile River. Who's that? Almighty himself, the God himself. So therefore, he purposely went and he hit it with dam, with blood. Now, why did he say, though, Ki ani Hashem, I am Hashem? He says very simple. A lot of the times, people do, right, what's called magic. The majority of magic tricks is not real. The majority of magic tricks, they're not real. You know what they are? They're very simple. They're called achizat enayim. They're illusions. Illusions means I'm going to come and I'm going to cut the guy into half. And then ki'ilu, I open it up, but the guy's still there, right? But it looks like it. I do things so quickly. I do it too quick. You can't see it. But you didn't actually do anything. Now here, with the makat dam, how do we know that it wasn't just an illusion? Because the fish died. Yeah, the fish actually died. And since the fish died, what happened is that all of a sudden, right, that was a proof that there wasn't just an illusion that they saw the blood. It was blood. And therefore, all the fish died in the sea. And it stunk and it was terrible. But they actually did happen. And why? Ki ani Hashem. The frogs, the same thing. And then Makat Kinim, when it was the lice. Also, everything was showing, I am Hashem. Okay. Why does it show I am Hashem? Because we're going to see, right? At the beginning, obviously they know, right, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is the God of the world. So I want to show that Hashem is the God of the world. The second group, they do agree that God created the world. Meaning the first group, they say, who's Hashem? Who's God? I'm an atheist. You're an atheist? I'm going to show you that you're not an atheist. Look, here's God. Here's the blood. Here's the river. Here's the frogs. Here's this. I'm the one in control. 100%. I'm God. Okay. There's a second group. The second group, they do say that HaKadosh Baruch Hu created the world, which means God did create the world. However, though, right, they're going to say, right, and even though he did everything incredibly, right, but he has no connection between the world and ourselves. Meaning God created the world, and then he just left it to nature. He just left it, and that's it, right? What is that compared to? They compare it to a person that comes and they create a car. If you come and you create the car, you come, you take a car, and you made it. If you turn the steering wheel to left, the tires turn to left. You go to the right, the right. If you push the brakes, it stops. When you take that car out of the shop, yeah, out of the room, right? We're going to say, and now all of a sudden you start driving it. Is there any connection between the one that made the car and the car? There's no connection anymore. It's true. If you have some problems, you go back to him just to make sure, but he knows better how to fix it. But technically speaking, there's no connection. It's completely detached. So what happened? They thought that they always used to say, Ram al kol goyim Hashem. Hashem is too exalted. He created the world, for sure he created the world. But after that, he left it to nature. What, do you think Hashem is going to come down here and start looking about what am I doing? What are you doing? What is he doing? Why, when, where, how? God is God. He's going to start taking care of, little details. It doesn't make sense. So therefore, what did they do? They don't realize that we always say, Mi ka Hashem Elokenu, hamagdil hashavet, hamashpili lo b'shamim haaretz. Which means, who's like Hashem our God, that he even comes down here. Hamashpili lirot. He comes down to see b'shamayim haaretz, everything that goes on, whether it's in the heaven or down below. Which means Hashem does pay attention. So this group, they were saying, we are going against the divine providence of Hashem. Which means we believe that God created the world, for sure he created the world. But after that, he took vacation, right? He's not here, right? He left, right? Why? Well, he's going to start dealing with us. What's going on? Doesn't make sense. Yeah, so that's what they actually thought. So what did he do? Right? So he says over here, when you're going to come and you're going to speak about all these things, what did they do? They purposely came and he said, there is divine providence. How do we see divine providence? For example, when we're talking about the different makot after the first three, right? So you have the tzach, which is dam tzefardei akinim, the blood, the frogs, and the lice. Then you have adash, right? What is adash? Arov, dever, and shechin. Arov, what's it written by Arov, dever, and shechin? By all three of them, it's written that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to make a distinction. He's going to distinguish between one part and another part. I'll give you an example. The wild animals or the dever. Yeah, where did it go? He said, I'm going to differentiate between Goshen and Mitzrayim. Where the Jews are, there's no animals. Where the Jews are, there's no pestilence. Where the Goyim are, yes. I don't understand. What? It all depends where you are. That's like in many times it happens, and you could see this yourself, right? It's always a wonder, right? You always see Marabut Ma'aseh Hashem. Look at the beauty of Hashem, right? You're driving, right? And it's pouring rain, right? After 1 second, you just continued, and all of a sudden there's nothing. You're like, what happened? Right? Somebody closed the faucet. And I said, what happened? 1 second later, right? You're not talking about now it's over here and that's over there. We're talking about 1 second before it's pouring rain. 1 second later, there's nothing, as if it never rained. You think to yourself, what happened? You look in the mirror and there's still pouring rain back there. What happened? HaKadosh Baruch Hu, he is so precise and he puts his divine providence so much that this is a line, over here it's going to pass, and over there it's not going to pass. That's the way that it is. Do you know the Baba Sali? It says Nachala on Motzei Shabbat and Sunday, the 4th of Shabbat. So the Baba Sali alav shalom, it once actually happened that there was a fire in his house. I think it was actually on Shabbat. And what did he do? They all wanted to come and they wanted to call the fire extinguishers, to stop it. He went and he said, no, don't worry about it. He took his staff and he drew a line with a staff, meaning he went like this with a staff on the floor, and he said the fire is not going to pass this line. That's it. It didn't pass. That's the way it is. Yeah, they had that power. They were able to do that. Because we're talking about the big tzaddikim. So now what? HaKadosh Baruch Hu, for sure he has the same thing. And even more. So what does that mean? HaKadosh Baruch Hu went and he said, this is Goshen. There's not going to be one dead animal. Not one dead animal. The wild animals only over there. In Mitzrayim. Goshen, nothing. It's on the border. It's attached. There's nothing. There's no. No. Over here, it's completely going to be, how do you call it? It's going to be completely safe. The other one, no. So therefore, you see from here that the next three was not to show that there's God. God, I already showed that there was God in the first three. So what do I have the next three? The next three was going to show us, Ki ani Hashem bekerev haaretz. I am Hashem within the land. I am Hashem. I already know that. I know that I am Hashem. We know that there's God. The next three was to teach us another learning. What was the other learning? Ki ani Hashem bekerev haaretz. I am Hashem within the land. That was the next learning. Okay, and that's why it's so important. Right now, and this also, by the way, in Shechin was the same thing, because the boils first started with the ministers of Paro, and then it went to everybody else. Because first it started with them, and then went to everyone else. But again, it was the same thing. He was showing that there's a distinction between people, which means that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is paying attention to every single detail in this world. The last three, right, was another teachings. Some people come and they say, okay, fine, you know what? God created the world, he created the world. God's down here in the world, it's true. But there's partnerships. There's a Trinity. There's a this, there's a that, there's a few things. They're all together, not monotheism. Okay, God created the world, for sure. We already learned it the first time. That he's in the world and he didn't just leave, also, I believe. But maybe there's a few. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu comes, and now he's going to show it in the laws of nature itself, that there's no such thing. What does he take the next three? We said that Tzach Hadash, right? Be'achav, Arbe, the locust, yeah? Barad, the hail, and the choshech and darkness. Let's take, for example, the barad, the hail. What did he do? He took fire and water. What's stronger, fire or water? Sometimes the fire, sometimes the water, right? Sometimes the water usually takes out the fire, but sometimes the fire will overcome. It depends, obviously, in the quantity, right? But it depends on many things, but they can't go together. They're two opposites. What does HaKadosh Baruch Hu does? He comes, he takes the two opposites, the hail and the fire around it, and he sends it to Mitzrayim. And people are looking, they're saying, one second, how could it be? That means the master of the world, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, he has the power over the fire and the water together. The sun is the king over the day. All of a sudden, HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, in the midst of daylight, choshech, darkness, I'm going to take it away. But I'm going to take it away so much that what's going to happen? That you can't even move. That's a darkness which is so dark that you can't even move your body. You become frozen. That's even more. So now the sun's not the God anymore. Now there's no other things. What is it? The arbe, the locust, the wind. There was never ever such a wind that was able to come in and carry it in the way that it carried in the locusts and the way that it took them out. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu showed them that he was God. He already showed them the first three times. That he was God in the world, in the midst of the world, he already showed them. To distinguish between whether it's the Jew or the Goy, where a person is, not divine providence, it's here. But to show that he's the only one, monotheism, that he's the only God, that he went and he showed them by coming and bringing these three makot. So you see from here that the three makot, the three groups or categories of the plagues, was each teaching us a lesson and emunah. And in essence, this is what we say, Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad. What does that mean? When Yaakov Avinu came and he went and he said, right, that he went and that's what they answered to Yaakov Avinu, and then Yaakov Avinu answered, which is actually tomorrow's Daf Yomi, actually, which is very apropos. Tomorrow's Daf Yomi, Daf Nun Zayin, 57 in Psachim, actually brings down this Gemara to do with Yaakov Avinu and the children saying Shema Yisrael and Baruch Shem Kol Mochel Ved. However, though, when they went and they said that, the name of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, right, when we say Hashem, Hashem teaches us that he is the God. Correct? That's what it teaches us, right? Why? Because we know from the name of Yud Ke Vav Ke, of the name of Hashem, we learn Haya, Hoveh V'yeh. Hashem was, is, and will always be. 100%. when it says, right, we come afterwards, right, but it's not only just Metziut Hashem, it's even more. Because now we have to understand that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is Elokenu. Elokenu means that he's also in this world, because he's our God. It's not that just he's Stama God and he made the world and he took off. He's our God. He's down here. He's with us. And then when we say Hashem Echad, he's only one. There's nobody else with him. Which means that the same makot, the same seder, the same order of the plagues is actually in our Shema. We say Shema Yisrael, listen Yisrael, Hashem HaKadosh Baruch Hu. You should know HaKadosh Baruch Hu is the God. He was, is, and always will be. But not only is he the God, he's here in this world. He's Elokenu, he's our God. But maybe you're going to think that there's other gods with him. Hashem Echad, he's only one. There's nobody else. So we actually say it every single day in the Kriyat Shema. We actually say it over. And that's how we're saying it. So now we come and we say, but now also there's something else that we could learn. We also learn about, right, the way that the Makot were done. Why? What did we just say? There were 3 groups of 3. Do you know how are the 3 groups of 3? The first and second had a warning. The third one without a warning. The fourth and fifth with a warning. The 6th without a warning. 7th and 8th with a warning. 9th without a warning. Why did he do that? Because in every group of 3, you needed 2 warnings. And interestingly enough, the 2 warnings were completely different. One was always on the river, and one was always in his house. Why? Very simple. Sometimes people, they get into peer pressure. And sometimes people, they go against it, which means sometimes I get into peer pressure. They're going to put pressure on me. I'm going to give in. Sometimes I'm going to show I'm the boss. So even in front of the people, the fact that there were people there, I'm not going to give in. HaKadosh Baruch Hu wanted to give in the warnings in both places. So he doesn't have an excuse. He's going to get a warning on the river, and he's going to get a warning in his house. And each time he got the warning. After 2 warnings, the 3rd strike and you're out. So the 3rd one, there was no warning. He gave him the makah without the warning. The second group, again, you have to have warnings. But why do you have to have warnings again? You already gave warnings in the first 2 of the plagues. No, because it was a new order. The first 3 was a completely different order. They were coming to teach you something special. Because think about it, if not, why do you need 10 plagues? You don't need 10 plagues with 1 plague. He could have given them makah bechorot, and trust me, they would have gotten out. And even without makah bechorot, boom, he takes them out, and that's it. Who's going to stop him? He's God. There's nothing that stops him. But it was teaching them a lesson. It was teaching them the lesson of what exactly where they're supposed to be going. So it says a person has to actually understand, right, exactly where they're living. Why? The Baba Kama, the first, and this is where we're going back to the first gates. You remember I told you there are 3 Gimarot. Baba Kama, Baba Metzia, Baba Batra. So in the Gimarot, each one was teaching you something different. So the Baba Kama was, I am Hashem. I am Hashem, you're right. The second one is, I am Hashem, your God here. The third one is, there's no one else other than me. That was the first. So for example, a person has to come and they have to pay off a big debt. So what does he say? He comes and he says he doesn't have any money to pay it off. So the Baba Kama comes and he says, you know what, pray to Hashem. Why do you pray to Hashem? Because if you pray to Hashem, he'll help you. The Baba Metzia, the middle case, says, 1 second. Who was the one that put you in debt? It was Hashem himself. And the Baba Batra, the last one, comes and he says, 1 second. What, do you actually think that there's something, there's no something bad? Everything is actually for the good. Because Hashem is the only one. Meaning that in everything that we actually do in life, we have 3 different ways of doing it, of looking at it. For example, Nachum Ish Kamzu. Everyone knows the famous story of Nachum Ish Kamzu, right? He comes, he's sent on a delegation. He has to go to the king. On the way to the king, he comes and they open up, and instead of giving him a big jewel box, right, a treasure box full of jewels, what does he have? Earth. So what does he say? Gamzu letova. So the Baba Kama is that, listen, you open up, you see earth. What are you going to do? Ribono shel olam, get me out of this. What am I going to do? You're going to give earth to the king. That's the first way of looking at it. The second way of looking at it is 1 second, right? This itself is Hashem. Hashem knows that there was earth here. What? He didn't know. He's the one that's here. He's the one that put it there. The third one says, what? Do you think that I'm suffering? This is good. Just like the jewels would have been good, this is also good. And that's how Nachum Ish Kamzu looked at it. Nachum Ish Kamzu immediately, what did he say? Gamzu letova. You think that there's something bad here? I have to pray? This is the will of Hashem. This is Hashem. And that's what we're actually trying to understand. And therefore, right? It's like, for example, many times it happens, especially nowadays, a lot of people, they're going into stocks, right? Why? Because listen, the people, they can't work on a normal thing, so they want to go into stocks. And that's why the stock markets is always just jumping up and down. So he says what happens is people are coming and they're looking the entire time at the video, right, at the screen. Is it going to go up or going down? Nasdaq, this, that, the Dow Jones, everything, up, down, up, down, up, down. So he says, 1 second. Baba Kama is going to say, Tipesh, you're a fool. What are you looking? Because you look more, it's going to go up, or you look more, it's going to go down. What are you looking for? What's it going to help? Right? So why? Say a perek of Tehillim, and hopefully it'll go up. What are you going to start doing now? Right? But the fact that you're looking, it's going to change something. Say Tehillim, do something about it. The Baba Metzia, the middle ground comes and it says, no, 1 second. The fact that it goes up and down, that in itself is a Shem. What are you going to say Tehillim for? That in itself is a Shem. Well, you think that Hashem didn't know that it's going to go up and down? Hashem knows that it's going up and down, right? The third one is, you're foolish from the beginning. Because do you think that if the market is going to go up or down, that's what's putting the money in your pocket? Hashem is the one that puts the money in your pocket. So what do you care about the market? All the rest is all nonsense. It doesn't even exist. And that's why he says the entire olam hazeh is choshech, is all darkness. And there's nothing else other than Hashem. Because everything is all nonsense. You're looking at it around and you're going here and there and doing this and doing that. But it's all Hashem. And there's nothing else there. So therefore, a person comes and he wants to go to the doctor. And nowadays, by the way, you should know the majority of medicine is preventive medicine. You should know that. Nowadays, the majority is preventive medicine. It's not a person gets sick. How many times? Every single time, every 6 months, every year, you have to go well visit, this, or that. Well visit. Yeah, you're doing fine. What else do you have to worry about? No. You have to preventative, right? What is a preventative? Preventative means you want to make sure that you're doing well. He says, 1 second, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is the only one. He's the one that's making sure of everything. So therefore, if he says, Ani Hashem, I have to just open up my eyes and always realize that there's only going to be HaKadosh Baruch Hu. There's nothing else. So he says, right, if a person comes, right, and he says that if he's not feeling well, what does he do? He comes and he goes to a Kupat Cholim, right? He goes to the doctor. The doctor is going to start asking for certain things. But why doesn't he say, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, please help me? But really, Be'emet, Paro, he didn't know all these things, so we had to teach him. So little by little, we had to actually come and teach them, no. Pay attention. I am Hashem. I'm the one that's sending it. I'm here. And everything is actually for the good. That's in essence everything that we're trying to find out. So Kam Chachamim, right? And they actually say that this is the importance of what's going on, right? Of everything that was going on around us. Right? Makab Bechorot was the last one of the Emunah. Right? I'm just shortening the shiur. It says here, Makab Bechorot, after all these shiurim of Emunah, which is teaching us HaKadosh Baruch Hu, right? Now he comes and he says, everything is there, but we're alive. So what do you care about anything else? What do you want? Do you know that the entire world is all nonsense? And therefore, what we're supposed to do is actually, right, is that we're supposed to actually take from the messages behind him to see what is the tachlit of everything, what is the purpose of everything, to serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Which means that HaKadosh Baruch Hu, he was actually teaching them a lesson, and we also learned the lesson, obviously, right? But we're just learning it on their backs, right? Because they were the ones that got the makot. We just learned from the makot. But what we're learning from them is that at the end of the day, there are 3 different levels. And in everything that we look at in life, we have 3 different ways of looking at it in life. And in every single way also, we always have to remember, what's the end? The end result, which is the purpose, was Makab Bechorot. All the other makot were just a lead on to the final, the finale. What was the finale? Finale was Makab Bechorot. The Makab Bechorot is, you're alive. You have to thank Hashem for that and try to maximize everything that you have. Because at the end of the day, everything that's around was all nonsense, right? What are we going to be worried about? About the health? HaKadosh Baruch Hu is the one that gives us a health. What are we worried about? The parnasah? HaKadosh Baruch Hu is the one that gives us a parnasah. About everything? So you're right, depends on the level. If a person's on the lowest of levels, Baba Kama, the first, he's at the beginning of the Gemarot, he's at the beginning of the levels. So at least minimum, pray to Hashem, right? A person's sick, pray to Hashem. A person, the stock market is not doing well, pray to Hashem. This is not doing well, pray to Hashem. That's a minimum level. The second level going up is saying, 1 second, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, you didn't know that it wasn't doing well? You didn't know that I'm not feeling well? You knew. You're here. You know what's going on. You were the one that put me here. So for what does that mean? And the third one is that in itself is good. Because many times from that, we realize other things. How many times does it happen that from something bad that comes up, only good comes out of it. But sometimes it could only take a day, sometimes it takes a month, sometimes it takes a week, sometimes it takes a year, and sometimes it could take 10 years, 20 years. And only then you say, you know what? I am blessed in that. Because if it wasn't for that, where would I be today? But that many times it takes many, many years to come back. And that's why, by the way, you should know the Gemara actually says we have to be mechabed the elders. You have to be mechabed, you have to give respect to the elders. Right? Somebody once asked, why do you have to respect the elders? I understand if he's a Tamid Chacham, if he's a rabbi, yeah, then fine. But why do you have to respect an elder? You know why you have to respect an elder, even if they're not your grandparents and parents and all. You know why? Very simple. Life in itself is the biggest teaching. And through life, they come and they learn. 1 second. What's happening is that I learned from the past. I learned what life is. I realized this was worth it and this was not worth it. And life in itself is the best teacher. And therefore, when we go through life and we see the elders, we have to ask them, ask the elders. Because we could be focusing on something that the elders are going to come and say, you know what, forget about it. It's a waste of time. Been there, done that. For us, sometimes we have to go through the mistakes, but they've already been there. They've already seen what actually has the fruits and bears the fruits. So B'ezrat Hashem, I just hope that this should actually, right, wake us up and show us how that we should always remember that it's not only just showing that this is a message to Paro, that I'm Hashem, in the divine providence, Hashgacha Pratit, that also that there's no other one other than Him, monotheism. It's a lesson for ourselves as well. And every single one of us, we're supposed to pay attention to realize in how we're supposed to have the appropriate outlook and perspectives in what we're supposed to be doing. Shabbat Shalom.